Okay, so now the second part of the experiment, we're picking up on at number 11. So we're turning the mass scale on. This one we can't hit the tare button to get it to 0, so we had to weigh it. The original measurement was 121.7 grams. Got that, 121.7 grams. And I've added enough salt, table salt, to get to 140 grams. So under your calculations, you can write 140 minus 121.7, and you'll find that it's basically around 18.3 grams that are in the beaker. So it says for number 12, slowly add table salt, so you have somewhere between 18 and 19 grams in the beaker. Use the graduated cylinder to add 50 milliliters of water to the beaker, and use the stirring rod to mix the salt and water. So we're adding that now, and we're going to use our stirring rod to mix it together. And then we're supposed to heat this then. Use the alcohol burner to heat the beaker of salt water. While it is heating, use the stirring rod to stir the mixture from time to time while it's heating. So
50 milliliters, right?
Yeah, 50 milliliters of water we added to that. Okay, so now we're going to start to heat this and come to a boil. So we're going to pause while this comes to a boil, and we'll be right back in a minute.
Okay, we're paused. No. Okay, go.
Okay, so at this point now, we just finished, we boiled that. It came to a boiling temperature. It said to continue to heat the solution until it is boiling everywhere in the solution. In between times when you stir, add ice and water to a third small juice glass that's 3/4 of the way full. Once the solution in the beaker is really boiling, extinguish the flame on the burner. Allow the solution to sit for a full minute. This should allow any undissolved salt to either settle down to the bottom of the beaker or stay floating at the top of the beaker. Then we're going to use the medicine dropper, which is right here. So it says use the medicine dropper to carefully pull solution from in between the surface and bottom of the solution. So because if you look in here, you'll notice at the top, you get the camera in there, show there's actually a layer of salt crystals on the top of the solution as well as some on the bottom. So we're going to be going for the level in between. It says that, so use the medicine dropper to carefully pull solution from in between the surface and the bottoms of the solution. In the end, you're trying to get the solution that is completely clear. It should have little or no solid floating in it. We're going to transfer the solution in the medicine dropper to the last empty test tube, which is over here. Okay, so we have our test tube here. We're going to do this 3 times total, 18 and 19, 3 times. Okay, so it's all settled. We're going to break through the surface there. Get them over here. Okay, I'm going to put that into here. Okay, again. So we're going for the very strong saline solution here. Okay. So that's 3 times now. You can see there's a little tiny bit of sediment in there, but not a lot. Okay, now what it says then, so look at the contents of the solution. It should be mostly clear. You can see if I hold up to the light that there's a little bit of sparkle in there. So this is some solution. You can see the salt in there, but it's mostly dissolved. It might be a bit cloudy since there might be some salt that isn't dissolved, and however, there shouldn't be much undissolved salt in it. Get a good idea of how much undissolved salt there is. So if you look at the bottom of the test tube, you can see there's a little bit at the bottom that was undissolved. So you want to check, you want to know how much it is to compare to what happens next. Okay, place the test tube in the small glass that contains a mixture of ice and water. Putting it there. It should lean against the side of the juice glass so the solution doesn't go inside. All right, and wait 5 minutes. All right, so we'll wait 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
okay, so now it's been 5 minutes here, and we're supposed to take this out. It says after 5 minutes, pull the test tube out of the ice water and look at the solution inside. Shake the test tube gently to agitate the solution. Get a good idea of how much undissolved salt you see now. And the question is it more or less than what you saw in step 21? So we'll take this out. You can see at the bottom there. So just shake it up. You can see there's a lot more in there now than there was before. So it definitely
Looks like a snow globe.
that looks like a snow globe. That's true. So you can definitely see that there's much more that's kind of basically crystallized again. So that's it. All right. So final things about that. Compared that to what happened with a solid solute in the second part of the experiment. When you tried to dissolve 18 to 19 grams of table salt in water, you couldn't get it all to dissolve. However, as you heated the solution, what happened?
More of the salt dissolved into the water. When you pulled a sample of that salt water solution out of the beaker and cooled it, what happened? Salt should have left the solution, forming a solid that you could see in the test tube. That's because solid solutes have essentially the opposite of gaseous solutes when it comes to temperature. Then it tells us the solubility of most solid solutes increases with increasing temperature. What about liquid solutes? How does temperature affect their solubility? Temperature doesn't affect the solubility of liquid solutes much, so you don't need to worry about that for this course. So that is it. I'll go down further down. One second. In the second part of your experiment, you made a saturated solution of sodium chloride. You used more sodium chloride than what could dissolve in 50 milliliters of water. As the solution heated up, more sodium chloride dissolved, but you never got all of it to dissolve completely. As a result, you can conclude that the solution which did form was saturated. This is why the solid came out of the solution as it cooled. Since there was already the maximum amount of solute in the solution, when the solubility decreased due to the temperature, there was no way the solution could hold as much solute as was already in the solution, so some solute had to leave the solution. All right, so you can continue on reading if you want to, but that gives you a basic idea of what happens in experiment 9.1. All right, we'll talk about it on Thursday. Bye.